All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of Monday, May 12th, 2025. I now call the meeting to order. It's time for the Pledge of Allegiance first, and I am going to tap Commissioner Dixon here to lead the pledge.
All right, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Dixon.
Thank you.
Anna, will you please do the roll call?
Chair Harlan.
Here.
Vice Chair Zick.
Here.
Commissioner Rojas is absent. Commissioner Klepak.
Here.
Commissioner Andrade.
Here.
Commissioner Dixon.
Here.
Commissioner Martinez.
Here.
All right, we have no announcements or presentations tonight, so we are at public comments. Public comments will be heard at this time on items that are not listed on our agenda but are within our jurisdiction. I'll open the public comment. If you'd like to speak, please come to the podium, or if you're participating by Zoom, use the raise hand option at the bottom of the screen, and if you're joining the meeting on your phone and would like to speak, please press *9. Do we have anybody in chambers who'd like to speak? Don't all jump at once. Okay, seeing that. Anna, anybody on Zoom?
No, there is not, Mr. Chairman.
And anyone on phone?
No, there is not.
Okay, wow. All right, planning commissioners, comments and suggestions. So let's start to my right, Commissioner Klepak.
I was just going to note that May 17th is Love Costa Mesa Day, so there's an opportunity to sign up for volunteer projects around the city. There will be a hosted lunch afterwards, so hopefully I'll see everybody there.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Andrade.
Yes. Did you know that May is Mental Health Awareness Month? So I'm really excited to have a great collaboration back in the city of Costa Mesa with key corporate leaders, IKEA Costa Mesa, Hogue, Mental Health Services, along with Orange County United Way and their 211 resource hotline. Our and Artist Safe Spaces, a local art nonprofit, is bringing back on May 31st, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., art therapy. So this is a free, open to the public event. There's going to be great prizes by our great neighbors with IKEA. So I highly recommend anyone, if you have family, children, come out for this great conversation. We're going to be sharing resources, get hands-on with some art, and engage in healthy mental health conversations. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that information. Commissioner Dixon.
Thank you. Just a brief note. Victoria Elementary has their spring fling next Friday, the 17th. It's going to be a great event. There's a lot of, or I think it's the 16th. Friday is the 16th. I'm not exactly sure. But regardless, next Friday, spring fling, Victoria Elementary School, because I don't want to take away from the Love Costa Mesa event. And I know, David, you might be talking about it more, but just one thing at the last city council meeting, they were describing some of the stuff that was happening, and it's really, really, really amazing. A lot of local restaurateurs are going to come down and be serving a lot of meals, and so it's a really great opportunity to get involved. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Martinez.
Yes, first past events on May 3rd, I attended Ciclo Irvine, which is when they closed off-campus drive to cars and opened them up for people walking, biking. I saw hundreds, maybe a few thousand people there. It's a great event, and it gives me hope for our future Pedestrian Safety Festival, which is on next year's CIP. I also saw city staff there, and I was very happy for that. The day after was Songs in the Canyon at Canyon Park. It was a great event, a lot of people biking there. I was there with Councilmember Reynolds, and we talked to a few community members. One of them mentioned ADUs, and Councilmember Reynolds mentioned the pre-approved ADU program. So I'm hopeful that we can get that out there soon. I think on the website it says in the early part of 2025, and we're approaching the end of the early part of 2025, I'd say. So I'm hopeful that we can get that out there as soon as possible. This morning, the OCTA Board of Directors voted to amend the Master Plan of Arterial Highways to remove the Garfield-Giesler Bridge from that plan. I'm very happy that they voted in favor of that after having delayed it for about a month. And for a future event, there will be a community preparedness town hall with Dilsey Hines, the emergency services manager, Thursday, May 15th at 5:30 at the Belair Community Center. Finally, I want to end with recognizing that last Tuesday, the City Council recognized May as National Bike Month with a proclamation. And as you might know, I actively participate in Bike Month, with this being my 5th year doing a challenge where I bike every day and do something random. The main goal of which for me is to show that you can bike and do most things that you can do in your everyday life. I mentioned the previous events of Sickler Irvine and the Songs in the Canyon, which I biked to. I biked to the DMV to get my real ID. I biked here tonight, and I biked yesterday to every park in Costa Mesa. But this isn't really about me. It's about those who won't drive because they have made that personal choice in their life. It's about those who can't drive, like children who are going to school. And it's about people who can't afford to drive because the cost of a car and car insurance and maintenance is so high that they simply cannot afford to do that. That's why I continually push for keeping our streets safe for all people, for improvements that will make people get where they need to go as safe and as easy as they can, and why I'm very happy that the city recognized National Bike Month last Tuesday. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Vice Chair Zick.
Thank you. I'd like to applaud Commissioner Martinez for his passion and advocacy. It's sincere, and I hear that, and it comes across clearly. I'd also like to welcome members of the public that are here. We're not often treated to this many people in the audience, so this is nice. And then finally, I'd like to ask staff if it would be possible to begin including in our monthly reports as a consent calendar item, just a receive and file report that would list all the open planning applications that staff currently has in process. Just something simple, address, applicant, maybe date received, and just go from there. I'm just looking for something very simple from staff as a regular item in our consent calendar. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I have no comments tonight, so looking at our agenda, we do not have any consent calendar items either. That brings us to our public hearings. We have 2 on the calendar tonight. Anna, if you would read the public hearing item number 1 into the record.
Public hearing item number 1, design review PDES-24-0007, tentative track map 19313, and density bonus agreement for a 6-unit small lot ordinance development at 215 and 223 Mesa Drive. Please note we have not received public comments on this item. This is a call for any ex parte communications.
Any commissioners, any ex parte communications? Seeing none, okay. This item is actually asked by the applicant to be continued. So can I get a motion to continue the item?
Move to continue. Do we need a date?
Second.
You only need a date certain if you don't want to renotice it. Then you have to open up the public hearing and continue it. If you do want to renotice it, you don't need a date certain.
Okay, just move to continue.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Martinez, seconded by Commissioner Dixon. Let's call for the question.
That motion carries 6-0.
All right, thank you. Anna, if you'd read public hearing item number 2 into the record now.
Public hearing item number 2, conditional use permit PA-23-05 for a new private school K through 12 within an existing church, Mesa Verde United Methodist Church at 1701 Baker Street. Please note we have received public comments on this item that have been provided to the commission and made a part of the record. This is a call for any ex parte communications.
Any ex parte communications?
I visited the site yesterday.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, Mr. Arias, I will turn it over for you for tonight's presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioner Chairs. Justin Arias, Associate Planner. As Anna described, I will be presenting the request for a conditional use permit for a new private school K through 12 within an existing church located at 1701 Baker Street. The subject property is a 3.1 acre site located at 1701 Baker Street on the southwest corner of the intersection of Baker Street and Mesa Verde Drive East. The site is zoned to INR, Institutional and Recreational District, and has a general plan land use designation of public and institutional. The subject property is generally surrounded by single-family dwelling zoned R1 properties in all directions aside from the four corners of Baker Street and Mesa Verde Drive East. The residences to the south contain 8 single-family residences and are separated from the subject property by a 6-foot block wall, approximately 5 feet of landscaping and parking lot area. This slide provides an aerial of the existing development and layout of the church and the proposed private school. The private school would operate out of the fellowship hall as well as a portion of the administration building. The proposed maximum enrollment is 120 students and would include grades kindergarten through 12th grade, with the maximum number of staff anticipated to be 40. Typical hours of operation would be from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, with staggered student drop-off and pickup. This slide shows the proposed circulation on-site for student drop-off and pickup as outlined in the applicant's submittal. Additionally, a mandatory tutorial video demonstrating the drop-off pickup system would be required to be viewed and attested to by guardians as part of their orientation. Staff will be required to arrive on-site before 7:30 to avoid peak traffic times and to park in staff-assigned parking areas in the lot. Students will be assigned a 15-minute arrival group, starting from 8 a.m., arriving within 3 separate windows for a 45-minute window period. Students would be dropped off and picked up by vehicles entering the property from Mesa Verde Drive East and would exit off of Baker Street with a right turn only. A minimum of 4 school employees would be on duty in the parking lot in designated student drop-off pickup areas to receive students in the morning and to ensure safe pickup and drop-off. For the first 2 weeks of the school year, a minimum of 2 additional employees, school employees, will be stationed along the west side of Mesa Verde Drive East to direct students, guide and direct students' arrivals in the morning. School staff will supervise all parking lot activities to limit noise impacts to the residential uses to the south and west and ensure student safety. Students are not permitted to drive to the campus, but would be allowed to walk or bike. Regarding parking, the Costa Mesa Municipal Code does not prescribe a specific parking ratio for schools, but is instead established through the conditional use permit process. The existing parking lot includes a total of 113 parking spaces, which can accommodate 51 staff, including the 40 proposed school staff, 9 current preschool staff, and 2 church staff that would be anticipated to be on site during the week. The project site also rents 25 parking spaces to a neighboring business. Therefore, the parking lot would include 37 excess parking spaces, which can be utilized by other visitors to the site, including parents dropping off preschoolers. The school's proposed play yards are approximately 100 feet from the closest residential property located across Mesa Verde Drive East. Additional residences are located to the south of the parking lot, with the closest residence being approximately 180 feet from the play yard. There should be no undue impacts by the proposed use on the surrounding neighborhood due to the distance of the play yards from the residences, limited use of the play yards, and daytime operations of the school. Other than pickup and drop-off activities, the parking lot will not be heavily used throughout the day and would not negatively impact the adjacent neighbors because the existing block wall provides screening between the two uses. Additionally, staff is conditioning the project to ensure the use operates as proposed, such as the implementation of the circulation plan, the maximum number of students arriving at once, the installation of directional signage and installation of bike racks, review of proposed play equipment should they be proposed in the future, and the requirement that no nighttime activities occur in the play yards. Based on staff's analysis and as required by code, the conditional use permit findings can be made. The proposed school is substantially compatible with developments in the general area, including institutional and recreational uses. There will be minimal impacts on residential neighbors in that the play areas are located as far as possible from the residences. Parking is sufficient for all proposed uses on site, and the circulation plan will minimize traffic impacts. The private school will not be materially detrimental to the health and safety of the public, and the use is compliant with the city's general plan and zoning code. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of CEQA and approve conditional use permit PA-23-05 subject to conditions of approval. That concludes staff's presentation, and we are available to respond to any questions. As well, the applicant's team is also here to respond to questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Arias. Commissioners, any questions of staff? Hit your lights. Commissioner Martinez?
Thank you. Okay, I will start with condition of approval number 9. How would the mandatory video training be enforced, and why require this condition?
So the mandatory requirement will be enforced by the applicant. Staff will use it as more or less a fallback on if we have issues in the future. For the most part, the purpose of it is obviously to inform the drivers of the students of the circulation pattern that's necessary to reduce any neighborhood circulation impacts. And with the school enforcing it, we don't really anticipate that there be any future issues, but we added it as a condition to make sure that we could require the implementation if it really is necessary, and even get affidavits that are written if worse comes to worse down the road.
Okay. For condition of approval number 12, this will require that a right turn only sign indicating hours from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. be included on site so that you can only turn right onto Baker. Was the intent for this to only apply for the school and for school hours, weekdays, or is this now going to apply to weekends during church services as well?
So it is permanent signage, so it could have the effect of applying to the church. However, it really is intended for the school operations. I don't believe they anticipate taking the signage down. But I don't know that our traffic police department won't be enforcing it per se, but it will be enforced to remind the students during the week, so that during those peak hour periods, there's a reduction in that type of turning that could impact that local area.
Okay. And then I wanted to follow up on the emailed public comment, just to get this on the record. Could staff reply to the concern about high school students and their vehicles?
Yeah, as proposed by the applicant, students would not be allowed to drive.
Great. Those are my questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Zick and then Commissioner Dixon.
All right, thank you. Let me start with the condition of approval number 12, while that's fresh in people's minds. I think I'll also ask the applicant their intention here. It seems to me that the intention is Monday through Friday for school traffic to only turn right coming out of the parking lot. And I would expect that as a neighborhood church, they probably have members that live in the residential area that you would turn left out of the parking lot. So we'll get some clarification from them and then maybe fine tune the wording on that condition of approval to meet what their expectation is. Page 7 of the staff report. So I've got a couple of, I guess, questions about this map, because the language of how it is intended to be used, which is right above the map on page 7, all this was lifted straight off of the applicant's letter. So what I'm a little confused about, and I sort of directed as a question to staff first, and the applicant can then address it. It indicates in the third bullet down that the expectation is that vehicles will be coming south on Baker, turn left on Mesa Verde East, and then turn right into the parking lot. Of course, the map doesn't indicate that with arrows, but the arrow that does show as an entrance into the parking lot has a curvature to it that would suggest that people are entering from Mesa Verde East coming from Adams. And I know this is a crude graphic, but that's what that implies. The last sentence of that third bullet says, use of the northbound Mesa Verde East Drive from Adams will not be part of the vehicle entrance pattern. So my question for staff is, are we prohibiting entrance into the parking lot from that direction? Or are you simply indicating that's the expectation that the applicant is placing on the guardians?
Yes, certainly, Commissioner Zick, it's the latter, that we would be, our hope and our plan review was really based on a controlled left-hand turn from Baker to Mesa Verde, and then obviously a right-hand turn into the site, and then another right-hand turn outside of the site to avoid conflict potential. So, yeah,
okay.
Short answer is yes.
And then thank you for that. My next question about that map, where the exit of the parking lot comes out onto Baker.
Exactly.
Are we prohibiting entrance into the parking lot from Baker at that location? And would that only be a prohibition that the applicant would put on the guardians? And I ask that question because there's a whole lot of diagonal parking right there along the property line that really you could only make use of by coming into the property from Baker.
Yeah, Commissioner Zick, that is correct. For this circulation process to work effectively, it has to follow an order. It's not for parking, it's for drop off and pickup only. So really that's the intention, to enter from Mesa Verde right again and then make a right out of Baker. So none of the drop off and pickup would enter off of Baker.
Okay, and then condition of approval number 25. I want to understand the rationale for having that in there. It says the applicant shall not allow for any off-site uses to utilize the parking lot without authorization by the Director, Development Services. Presumably that means if the church across the street or the high school caddy corner, or even if the library was having a function and wanted to use this additional parking, they're not allowed to grant that without getting the director's approval?
Yeah, that is correct again, Commissioner Zick.
So can you square that with the lease or rental agreement that they currently have for those 25 stalls? Because that would seem to be somewhat of a conflict.
Yeah, the intent of that provision was not to respond to what's already being used, which was included in the report as an existing condition, but rather any future changes to the site that might impact whether it be circulation or parking. So we could certainly clarify that to account for the previous existing off-site use of the parking lot, but certainly it was intended for future.
Okay, and then my last question, is staff aware at this point what the, who the tenant school is going to be?
We are not aware, actually, that the church is just looking to put together a use approval, and then at some point a future school will come into play. At least the last that I'm aware, they have not gotten a school approval. They were working with the school some time ago, but that school is no longer, I believe, progressing towards that use. But
Okay.
the applicant could probably respond to that better than me.
All right, thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Before I get to you, Commissioner Dixon, I just want to follow up on that last question by Vice Chair Zick, since I had it as well. Mr. Drapkin, you said it's just a use approval. So as is standard in our conditions of approval, the applicant would have 2 years to implement the planning approval, either through a building permit being issued or issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Does that mean that all the applicant has to do to implement a CUP is just pull the building permit or get a C of O, even if there's no designated operator?
That would be the intention of this use. I would foresee that they would have a tenant long before that time. They have done all of their, at least we have worked with the applicant for several years now on upgrading the site to be a use for the school that it's intended. So I think the church is ready for the use to go in as soon as possible. But to answer your question, yeah. And then if there was a problem for, say, that they wanted to just in case preserve that entitlement, we could allow for an extension of time as well.
Okay, all right. That was my only question. So Commissioner Dixon?
Thank you so much. And just a real quick follow-up, and we can talk about this with the applicant and the commission as well. But on 25, I'd like to get a little more clarity on that as what the intent is, just not to completely, we want to make sure that whatever school use goes in there pursuant to this CUP will be protected from things that may impact the parking or the use of the circulation or things like that. But at the same time, we want to allow the church to have flexibility to be able to have other events, if they want to, with a special event permit, things like that. So I'd like to clarify that, as well as condition of approval number 20. Mr. Drapkin, are you familiar, is that something that's a typical condition of approval for a school or a play yard? And I ask because over at Victoria, we have several events throughout the year that occur on the soccer field directly adjacent to housing. Could be movies they're showing on a PTA night, or it could be, the spring fling where there's noise. And I don't know if they have to pull a special event permit because it's a district, but just something to think about, because again, I don't want to completely handcuff them unnecessarily. So what are your thoughts on that, the prevalence of that condition?
No, I certainly think that the Planning Commission could be more flexible with that condition if necessary. The design of that condition of approval was certainly intended to prevent any impacts to the neighbors. It was included to avoid the neighbor concerns.
Absolutely.
I think it might even been brought forward from the applicant. I don't recall. Maybe the applicant can confirm that. but they don't have too many events, as I'm aware, in the evening. But if the school did need to do so on a rare occasion, staff can approve those things. So it's not a problem.
And then one other question, was your intent on condition of approval number 11 that all staff shall arrive to the site prior to 7:30 to avoid impacting the drop-off circulation plan? Just the nerd in me wants to add an AM to the 7:30, but also, does that include, janitorial staff, custodial staff, volunteers, things like that? I would like a little clarity on what, just to make sure we're not, again, unnecessarily imposing a condition that may be too restrictive. Like if it's just all parking-related staff or all operational staff or something along those lines.
So the intention of that is for school staff.
Okay.
So we could clarify that and then also add the AM, like you said.
Great, okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions of staff? All right, if not, I will open up the public hearing and ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to come to the podium. And if you wouldn't mind stating your name for the record.
Chair Harland and members of the Costa Mesa Planning Commission, Adrian Gladson, Gladson Consulting, a pleasure to be in front of you this evening representing the church. And they're here to talk to you as well. We'll answer your questions.
Okay, I have one question before you leave.
Sure.
Have you read the staff report and conditions of approval, and do you agree to those?
And the answer is yes. And Ms. Volper can also confirm that as representative from the church.
Okay.
We're happy to go through the questions that you've proposed. I will share with you the conditions are exactly what we're comfortable with, but we're open to your wordsmithing in terms of helping clarifying the use and to totally memorialize it for posterity. The comments I heard, I tried to take complete notes. It is our intention to run a very tight ship here. We're quite aware of the neighborhood, and we're anxious to move forward. I will say we do not know the tenant, but we have interested parties, and we want to get this entitlement in place so we can go forward so the church can move to bring someone on board. They're very excited about the opportunity to repurpose these two buildings that are 90% empty Monday through Friday. So that is the intent, and we're opening to any wordsmithing you may do. If you have any technical questions of me, I'll be happy to answer them, and then you can speak with Ms. Volper as well.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Vice Chair Zick.
Thank you. I'll let you decide which question
Sure.
So understanding that you don't have a tenant identified helps me understand a little better some of the math here, where you propose a maximum enrollment of 120 students across 13 grades, which comes out to 9 students per class.
Could
I
be.
doubt that's what you're planning.
I doubt that's what we're planning. We want to give them the flexibility to go to high school level. To be honest, we think that will be very, very small if a school of this size of 120 students moves forward here. We're very familiar with other schools in Costa Mesa that have found these little niche places. Often they're language related and maybe immersion related, and they're clearly going to be small class sizes and a small school enrollment. Related to your comment that you asked about the access point, I would also clarify, you cannot make a left turn into the church going northbound on Mesa Verde Drive East from Adams as a median. So our little rudimentary drawing was showing the access is from Baker. We will have parents and guardians be responsible to know the pattern for them to get into the campus. So obviously they could come northbound. They would have to get to Baker and get into the proper queue, technically make a U-turn and go in that direction. That's the flow we want the school to have.
Thank you. You headed off one of my other questions. So I imagine you've seen this letter from the member of the public who is concerned about high school age students. If you were restricted to K through 8, would that be a problem or a burden to you? I'm not negotiating, I'm simply asking.
Sure. It would be a barrier for the church to not have that option. We have spoken with that commenter. Thanks to your staff and sharing that. I understand from church staff that that individual is very happy with the fact that our school is very small and our high school restriction of drivers will be enforced. So that made them very comfortable with that condition of approval.
Okay, and then regarding the student drop-off plan, you know, on Baker, there is parking right adjacent to the facility. Are you restricting or plan to restrict parking along the street there for any specific school purpose, whether that's staff or maybe parents dropping off students?
Vice Chair, you mean on site where our parking or directly on Baker?
On Baker Street itself?
We have no intention of using that for the school use. If there's a special event, we would be happy to coordinate that with the city if we were going to have any parking out there.
You know that's a fairly heavily used
Yes.
area for parking now.
Sure, for probably residential purposes, right? I don't know.
I don't know the owners of the vehicles. Okay, I think that's it. Let me just double check. That is, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Dixon, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Just a quick question, because I was mentioning some of the things we didn't want to handcuff the application with, but at the same time, if you're not seeking nighttime events, or if those don't happen in the neighborhood, if that's not something that would be tolerated, you know, significantly different where you guys are located compared to like the Baker Street Bash, for instance, or even our Spring Fling, which is much noisier, higher volume, higher traffic area. So, you know, if the church and the applicant are good with the conditions of approval, we won't mess with them. But if you, okay.
We're okay with them, but we know there was some wordsmithing you had. I do want it to be AM on the arrival time. So we're totally amenable to that.
Okay.
If I recall the condition correctly, on the playground equipment is what you're speaking to.
No nighttime activity in the play yards.
And the playground.
Right.
Yes, I think the church, we're generally okay with that. We know there's flexibility with their staff. And let me reiterate, your staff has been incredibly flexible with this process with us and amenable, because we already have a preschool here that is operating since 1961 under that CUP. So that partnership has been long known.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, commissioners? Yeah. Commissioner, let's start with Andrade.
Yeah, hi, thank you so much for, this looks like a great project. One of my questions is related, you know, should you have the opportunity to go up to 12, I'm just curious with how is the relationship, or have you guys reached out to, I don't know, find collaborative opportunities with the high school right across the street?
That has been in the discussion stage with the church team, and they have a broker, so it could be a possibility. There's also the Pacific Academy on the other corner that goes to 8th grade. Those could all be options for them. The church wants to keep all of those doors open for an opportunity to provide educational opportunities up to that level.
That's great. And, you know, I love to read, I really appreciated reading the letter that was included in the application, and learning a little bit about the history on how this whole area was developed to really service the community. And so this question is more on the operational side, but do you guys foresee that the school will have opportunities for scholarships as a private school?
I don't have an answer to that. I would think so, but it's unknown at this point. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, it would be, again, just thinking about, like you were sharing, that the positive impact that it could have for many parents that are looking for alternatives, which you guys are very keen and aware of what that need is in the community. So this would provide accessibility for the broader Costa Mesa community, so that would be amazing. And then along those lines, collaboration with the local school, opportunities to expand eligibility for financial eligibility for more children. Does this at all impact, because we've seen a couple of applications come through before, does this at all impact the funding for public schools? I'm not too familiar on how it all works, but I just want to clarify that. Yeah.
Personally, I'm very familiar with it. I will tell you it should not. And in fact, my relationship with the church, what I have learned from them for the last 18 months to 2 years, is their commitment to public education. That's part of the legacy of the Methodist congregation and the Methodist denomination. So that's not anything that they want to tread on because they value public education. They see the niche for potentially a school that's filling a need probably for folks who are potentially on the spectrum or could be needing extra small class sizes. And that's a really neat opportunity, or like I said earlier, potentially a language immersion type of school. The one that they've had an opportunity to do previously was trilingual. And that didn't move forward, but we found that as a model that could very well be what could succeed here. But they don't want to put any barriers on what could happen here. They really want to step out in faith in many ways and say, let's see what the market will bring here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right, Commissioner Martinez.
Thank you. First, I wanted to ask if, I know there's no tenant selected yet, so may not have answer for this one, but based on experience perhaps with the preschool, if you could anticipate what general area students might be coming in from. Would it be neighborhood, city, county?
It's very hard to totally estimate. We do know that there's a need in this part of Costa Mesa with the fact that the preschool is here. Could that be a tie-in where those preschool students might move into the private school here because they're already being brought to preschool, maybe even as pedestrians with mom and dad and guardians bringing them here? So it could very well be the intent of the Mesa Verde neighborhood, which all of you know, was to be very walkable and be very connected to all the institutional uses that were planned for. So it could be a good sampling of Costa Mesa, but to be fair, we anticipate there will be other students potentially from Huntington Beach, Westminster, Fountain Valley, that just may very well come here, Newport Beach. So there will be some commuter connection. I also will note that the staff has added the condition to do additional bike rack if we need one here. We do want to promote our teachers to come alternative ways, and also students if they are old enough to do that. So it's already happening now. So
Great. I wanted to ask about school hours. I know the staff report says hours of operation are 7 to 6. I don't think that would be the hours of classes. Mm-hmm. I also know that starting eventually, California state law requires public secondary schools start no earlier than 8:30, but as a private school, this I don't think would affect that. But I just wanted to ask if there's a general sense of when school class hours would begin.
right, pretty much about 8:30 timeframe. We have the ability to do early arrival for parents who might need extended care. That's the timeframe staff has laid out in the staff report. But our realistic thinking of the window of arrival time is from 8 a.m. to approximately 8:45 a.m. With different grade levels starting at a different interval. So the school day really, I would say, is 8:30 to probably 2:30, 2:45. And then you're winding down with extended care with parents or guardians who need their young people to be there a little longer, and they have homework to do and all that.
Yeah, the reason I was asking is because of the condition of approval requiring staff to be there prior to 7:30 a.m.
Yes.
If it was the case that it started, like drop-off period started at 8:30 and then went off to 9:15 or so, then I would say I wouldn't know if that's a bit early. But I just wanted to check and make sure. Then I just wanted to follow up with you on the other conditions of approval that we talked about. So for number 12, which requires the right turn only sign onto Baker, is it okay that it's just applies all the time? I know you said you're okay with the conditions as they are, but I just want to confirm if that might cause an issue for weekend services.
Yeah, Commissioner Martinez, we would be open. We've already talked about that. The intent was for Monday through Friday. And if it's appropriate to wordsmith that, we do anticipate church members to go to church and be able to turn left on Sunday. So,
Okay.
yeah, it is, we do want we want the school to go right, so.
Okay. Do you anticipate continuing the current parking agreement with the off-site use?
Do you want to talk, Ms. Volper, about that? And I'll step in if I need to.
Beatrice Volper. I'm a member of Mesa Verde United Methodist Church on the Board of Trustees. Please repeat the question.
Do you anticipate continuing the current parking agreement with the off-site use?
Yes, as long as they meet the conditions. If we need to reduce the number of spaces, then we will do that in order to stay with the conditions that are approved.
Okay. I believe those are all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One more, Vice Chair Zick?
Yeah, and I have to blame Commissioner Martinez for prompting the question in my mind. The existing preschool drop-off plan, do they have to conform to the same routing?
No, they do not, because they have, those young infants are actually not dropped off, and those preschool kids have to be brought in. So they will be parking and taking little one in, signing them in, and picking them up. They're too small for drop-off.
And is the parking that they use what is on the map designated as
Yes,
nursery school parking?
correct.
So the route goes around them?
It goes deliberately around them so that they can do what
Got
they
it.
need to do. Yes, exactly.
Thank you. That's it, Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Gladson.
Sure.
I'll give you an opportunity to come back after public comments
Sure.
if you want any concluding remarks. I'll now open the public comments. If you'd like to speak on this item, please approach the podium. If you're using Zoom, use the raise hand option. And if you're joining us by phone, please use *9 to speak. So anybody in chambers like to speak? You guys are just observers tonight? Okay, and anybody on Zoom or phone?
No, there's not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm going to close the public comment portion. Ms. Gladson, if you'd like to come back up. If not, feel free to stay right there. Okay, commissioners, any further questions for staff? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
All right. I move that we adopt a resolution to find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, per CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, Class 1 Existing Facilities, and approve conditional use permit PA 2305 based on findings of fact and subject to conditions of approval, including amending number 11 to state 7:30 a.m., number 12 to include that this prohibition on right turn only is on weekdays. Number 20, to include standard language that no nighttime activity is permitted in the play yards without authorization by the Director of Development Services. And number 25, to state that any additional off-site uses require the authorization of the Director of Development Services.
Okay, before we take a second, I already see Vice Chair Zick is quick to the draw here. I just wanted, because things happen so quickly, close the public hearing. So the motion stands by Commissioner Martinez. I see a second by Commissioner Zick. Commissioner Martinez, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I think I got everyone's comments in there, so please let me know if I did not. But I did visit the site yesterday. I thought it's in a good location. I did see the median that prevents the left turn from Mesa Verde, so I understood that part. I think it's a good use of the site. It's already connected with all these other institutional facilities that are nearby, and I'm happy that it will receive more use throughout the week. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner, Vice Chair Zick?
I'll support the motion. Thought Commissioner Martinez did a great job of capturing the edits for the various conditions of approval. I support educational choice, whether this ultimately is a parochial school, private school, charter school, whatever it turns out to be. The more educational opportunities parents have to choose from, I think the better off we all are. So I enthusiastically support your plan. Hope it works out.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Dixon?
Thank you. Would the maker of the motion and the second do a slight amendment to number 11, where it says all staff, maybe operational staff or parking staff or something along those lines? There could be custodial staff or some other folks who may, to have a land use approval require all the staff to be there at 7:30 seems a little restrictive. So if there's a way that, maybe all staff responsible for parking operations, or all staff responsible for the circulation plan, or all staff as outlined in the operation plan, or something along those lines, just to not handcuff them to have, the after-school, temporary aide have to show up at 7:30 and sit around all day.
I would agree. I just want to know which of those you would like to use.
Okay, so maybe just all staff responsible for implementation of the circulation plan, or all, or something
That works for me.
Okay.
If the second agrees.
Okay.
Just a quick point of clarification. I mean, are we getting into the weeds here on who needs to report at the start of the day at the school, right? I mean, teachers come in early to get their classroom set up. Would we, by setting these kind of specifics, would we be kind of locking in the?
Well, and that's what I'm trying to. I don't want to handcuff them completely. Where the after-school folks have to show up at 7:30, that kind of deal. I'm just trying to think ahead to a potential challenge or issue they may have down the road with the tenant they're trying to attract.
Or can we keep it general, like necessary school staff that needs to be there by 7:30, something
Or
along those lines?
appropriate
Right.
staff or something.
Exactly, yeah, because I know in our school, our principal, assistant principal, some teachers are there early to set up the school, sometimes to welcome the kids, kitchen staff to welcome kids in the cafeteria. Again, just
If I may,
thoughts.
if we just got rid of the word all, and it just said staff shall arrive, and we leave it sufficiently ambiguous and not add all those extra words?
Yeah.
That works.
Okay.
Okay,
And then,
simple enough?
yes,
Okay.
are we still making comments, or can I speak?
No,
to
no, you can
approval?
speak more.
I'm really glad to see this, and I wanted to provide a little bit of personal history. Our kids went to, I don't remember exactly the organization, but there was a summer program that was held at that facility. And I will have to tell you, when I saw this application, it was run almost like a military operation. Like you could not do something wrong. They were on it 100%. And I don't know if that's your organization or if that was the people who were renting it at the time, but it was very regimented where you could go, where you could stop, where you could go in or out. And there were adequate staff. It was a very pleasant, very well-run program. So I had a little bit of experience there. Our kids went to Christ Lutheran. We dealt with a tremendous amount of traffic and circulations and neighbor impacts there as well, just because it's stuck right in the middle of a neighborhood. There's limited parking. But the way that they were able to work with the neighbors and overcome some of those issues and achieve an approval from the city for an additional expansion with the support of neighbors. So it just goes to show that these types of schools with a relatively small enrollment, Christ Lutheran is about 220, Pacifica Christian looks much smaller than this, and that's about 280. So there are ways, like Vice Chair Zick, I strongly support school choice. We send our kids to Christ Lutheran for preschool, but we send them to Victoria for elementary. It's our choice where we send them, and have more options that are quality and well imagined and rooted in the community is fantastic. So I strongly support this, and I wish you the best of luck.
Okay, thank you. Likewise, I support the motion. I want to thank you for bringing this forward to us. Oh,
Chair, I would love also to share my personal
by all means.
connection here on part of why I asked that very specific question to Ms. Gladson, right? Every parent, I love how you're highlighting, every parent, everybody wants the opportunity to have school choice. But for a good chunk of Costa Mesa residents, that's not an option, right? They only have an option for public schools. So even if they did have special needs kids, or even if they did want dual immersion, triple immersion on whatever languages, is the reason why I was asking about opportunities for scholarship. Because I could remember very early on when my child was I wanted her to go to a fabulous private pre-K, but I just simply didn't have the means to. And when I went around to find out those high-ranking opportunities, schools, no one had scholarships. No one had scholarships available, or even applications of consideration by income, something like that, something creative to truly, like you highlighted, really live the ministry's goal to make it accessible to everyone that is interested, right? Make it achievable, at least creating a path for everyone to have the opportunity to enjoy. Because immediately after you answered my question, you mentioned Garden Grove, Fountain Valley, Newport, Huntington, so that quickly kind of canceled out even the consideration. So again, wonderful project, beautiful neighborhood. I would just invite a consideration to make it accessible and equitable for all of Costa Mesa. Thank you.
Okay, with that, let's call for the question.
That motion carries 6-0.
All right, congratulations. That decision is final unless appealed to the City Council within 7 days, so. All right, we have one new business item tonight. Anna, would you read the title into the record?
New business item number 1, general plan conformity resolution for the city of Costa Mesa, 1 year fiscal year 2025 to 26 and 5-year fiscal year 2025 to 26 to fiscal year 2029 to 30 capital improvement programs. Please note we have not received public comments on this item.
All right, thank you. I will now turn it over to who's thinking? Raja Setharaman, our Public Works Director, to present the
Before you
item.
do, Chair, could you mind if I introduce the team and start
of
up the
course.
process? It's kind of a tradition now for these.
But by all means.
Thanks. I wanted to introduce the item. This is a Public Works item generally. However, I wanted to give a little bit of a very quick background for the commission. The item is a required annual review of the general plan conformance for the city's proposed CIP. The City Council has already reviewed a draft of the CIP a short time ago and provided their direction and comments. The Planning Commission's review tonight is limited to if the CIP is in conformance with the general plan. Pursuant to state law, The Planning Commission's role is not to analyze or consider a CIP project based on its scope and or budget, only if the scope of the project would be in conformance with the policies and goals of the general plan. So with that said, I'll turn the presentation over to Mr. Seth Rothman and Mr. Yang.
Thank you, Mr. Drapkin. Mr. Chair, members of Planning Commission, glad to be here. So as Assistant Director Drapkin mentioned, so this is a general plan conformity resolution for the 1-year CIP that's upcoming 25-26 fiscal year and also our 5-year CIP. So with that, I want to quickly go over a little bit of background on the CIP for those who are new to this process. And then we'll look at what we are planning for the upcoming fiscal year. So the CIP is part of our budget, and it's a capital improvement program, and is funded from multiple funding sources. We use not only general fund, but we get a lot of federal, state, and county funds that go into this. And we deal with different restrictions on these funds. So some funds are, for example, if you talk about gas tax, it's restricted only in the public right-of-way. I cannot use it in a park, for example. And same thing, if it's a drainage fund, it's on drainage facilities. So they have some funds have restrictions. Some funds, like general fund, has pretty much no restriction. It can be used everywhere. And because of that, there is a lot of oversight. So we get audited. Measure M funds get audited by OCTA. They look at our books. They want to make sure we're doing it right. Otherwise, they suspend funding for us. So we need to be very careful. And we coordinate with all the departments. Our projects cover multiple departments too. So we coordinate with them. And even for getting approvals, some of them have environmental approval. We work with our development services department. Of course, our finance is a big partner in many of our projects. And we have a threshold, $30,000. That's the limit where the project makes a CIP. Below that, it's considered as minor improvements, and we have other ways to implement those projects. CIP is a multi-year program. So if you look at our budget, most of our budget has to be spent in that fiscal year. But CIP is different. It's projects are not done in the same year. Smaller projects do get done in that year it's programmed. But larger projects, they go through outreach, they go through design plans and multiple reviews by sometimes Parks Commission or City Council, and then we come with the final design, and then we go through a bidding process, and then we go through construction. So it's a drawn-out process that has many phases, and that's why these larger projects take many years. And our projects do get a lot of awards. We just this month we were notified we are getting an award for the Adams Pine Creek project. So we'll be receiving that later this month from Association of Civil Engineers. So ASCE is going to give us that award. Now, what we have in the upcoming fiscal year. So we identified projects based on City Council priorities, goals, objectives. We got feedback from commissions, committees, and from the community too over time. And we look at what's needed also, infrastructure needs in our city. So all this get thrown into the mix to figure out what can be done, but then the budget does play a big role. What can we afford? We might get a request for $40–50 million, but we cannot do all of them. So our budget constraints do play a big role in this one. But one thing we have to make sure is our CIPs have to meet the minimum maintenance of effort requirements that's set by OCTA and gas tax to get Measure M money and gas tax funds. So we need to make sure that we have that as a minimum, and then anything above is definitely we incorporate them. So we have 23 total projects with a CAP amount of $28.7 million. And this includes 12 million in future bond financing. This is for Fire Station 2. So here you see the different grant funds that's funding the $28.7 million CIP. As I mentioned, the bond funds play a huge role in this one. Grant funds, we have a lot of grants for many of our active transportation projects. So $6.9 million in grant funds. Gas tax is, of course, another big contributor, so is Measure M2. So all these together, I mean, and general fund is about $2.1 million for this fiscal year. So these are the different components. And you can see there are two gas tax. One is road maintenance and rehabilitation account. It's Senate Bill 1 funded new gas tax that we started receiving, 4 or 5 years ago. So we have a couple of gas tax items. This is a little hard to see. It's about this shows the $28.7 million worth of CIPs, but it's an attachment in your staff report. And just wanna, again, this one shows the big breakdown. Facilities do have a big chunk of our CIP because of course, the bond fund for fire station. Transportation, due to the grant funds, have a big amounts. Streets also have the gas tax funds that go into that part. Parks have a smaller funding this year, but just want to point out we are working on almost $7-8 million worth of park projects at this time that will be under construction this summer. So we have quite a bit happening in the parks, even though what's in the budget for next year is small. We have a lot going on. So these are some of the projects. In our major projects in the CIP, we got Station 2. We came to you for environmental approval on this one not too long ago. So this station is going in size from almost doubling in size. And it is to improve operational function and also the living quarters. It'll have a larger apparatus bay, other needed facilities to make this a premier fire station. And while this is under construction, there will be temporary living and operating quarters on site. It has a big parking lot on the back, so they will have a temporary facility right on the back. We will be funding tree maintenance using gas tax in the next fiscal year. We are proposing $200,000, and the reason why we could do this is because it's in the public right of way and we can use gas tax for that purpose. And this is Harbor Boulevard project rehabilitation between MacArthur to South Coast and Geisler to Baker. This is funding using RMRA. This is again gas tax account. The section between South Coast and Geisler will be completed by Caltrans, by OCD actually. They're still finishing up that project, the 405 project. Our citywide street improvements, this is our annual program to maintain our pavement at a PCI level of 85, and we have improvements in all council districts. This is a repeat, looks like. Okay, Adams Avenue improvement project. This is the large grant project that we have currently. This is between Royal Palm and Santa Ana River. This will implement off-street bike trails. This will be implemented following the completion of undergrounding of utility lines. Half of it is going to be funded by Southern California Edison because we have some leftover monies from their Rule 20A, we call it. It's their undergrounding fund. They're going to fund half of it, and city is going to fund the other half of it. And then this one is Adams Avenue bike facility. As I mentioned about Adams Pine Creek, that's right in the middle of this facility between between Harbor and Fairview. This project adds bike lanes on Adams, on both sides of that intersection of Adams and Pine Creek to complete that project. With the completion of this one, there will be bike lanes on Adams between Fairview and Harbor. This is the Fairview Road Improvement Project, another bike lane project. The City Council recently awarded design of this project. This will add bike facilities or improve the bike facilities we have on Fairview between Fair Drive and Adams. So this will complement the project that will be constructed. The construction should start this summer on the south of Fair Drive on Fairview. So this project will take that towards Adams. And then we have the Pedestrian Safety Festival. Again, we have a grant of $400,000 federal grant. This will implement a safety festival on Newport between, on Harbor between Newport and 19th Street to promote various active transportation activities. It's to have an event that, 4 separate events to get people talking about different active transportation events and to promote bicycle and pedestrian safety. With that, there's a couple of more information. We have a 5-year plan, that includes projects that are deferred and projects that are planned in the upcoming fiscal years, and that's in your attachment 3. So this 5-year plan is updated annually. So this year we actually took a little bit deeper look into it, and you'll see it's different from the previous 5-year CIP, and it's done on purpose. When we looked at the list of projects, some of the projects we could not identify any plan behind that project. So we took projects like those mostly out of this document. That being said, we are working on a couple of plans. We are working on a facility needs assessment study right now that will define how the facility should be planned over the next 5 years and beyond. We are also working on a park assessment study that will help us identify how parking improvement should be phased over the next few years. So in the next year, you'll see those added into the plan. So we want to make sure that when we have a document, we have a plan behind the document. So this is our calendar. Here we are on May 12th with you on this in this process of making sure that our general plan, that the CIP is consistent with our general plan. And tomorrow we're going to City Council on the budget, full budget study session. And then the day after we're going to the 5-pack again to talk about the CIP as well as the full budget. And then we hope for approval by City Council in June. So with that, as I mentioned, the recommendation is to find that the general plan, conformity is met for the 1 year and the 5-year CIP. So that concludes my presentation, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you very much, Director Sethram. And I see Vice Chair Zick is all ready to go.
I am. Could you put it on page 9 of your presentation? Thank you. So in terms of primary sources of funding, I was curious about the $10 million development impact fee from One Metro West. Would that be a source of funding behind any CIP projects? And if not,
yeah, of course, Vice Chair Zick. When that funding comes into our city, there are the development impact fees include multiple different types of funds. Some are park fees, park development funds that go into the park fees, and they'll be programmed when we receive it. There are other fees towards traffic that will be programmed. Again, when we get those funds, that's when we start programming it. We don't program in advance of receiving those funding.
Well, okay, so that triggers then this question. Why is the $12 million bond fund there?
So the 12 million bond fund is there to daylight that is being planned in the next fiscal year.
Okay.
We will be going after, again, the council will receive reports from our finance director sometime maybe September or August, September timeframe with issuing a bond.
So let me reframe my question, because that $12 million is not a surety at this point. It hasn't been approved, likely will be, but it has not. The $10 million from One Metro West is absolutely coming in. So I'm just kind of curious why that wouldn't be planned in here. And maybe the answer is, I'm trying to help, is that money wouldn't be applicable to 25, 26.
That's exactly right.
Okay, I like that answer. Thank you. All right. I like the way you broke down each of the projects, showing the total budget and then the breakdown of the source of funding. That's new this time. You haven't done that before. I think that's an excellent improvement to your presentation to us. I also did notice the calendarization of the 5-year plan is a lot more logical now. You don't push stuff out, and 3 years from now you have 25 million sitting there when you know that isn't even feasible. So I applaud you for that. Then I've got a minor bookkeeping question for you. And it's on, I'm going to hold it up so you can see the page I'm referring to.
Okay.
It's on this page. In the staff report, you identify 5 different categories of the capital improvement projects: facilities, parks, parkways and medians, streets, transportation. But on this page, you only show 4 out of those 5, kind of. Except if you take a closer look under the streets, which is category 4, the third item down says parkways and median improvement program, which is by definition what the category 3 is. So could you help me understand why in the staff report we make an effort to show 5 categories of capital improvement projects, and then on this page we don't follow that same scheme?
Oh, thank you, Vice Chair. I think that's probably an error on our part. We should have had 4 categories in that one too, to be consistent. Having said that, before there were times when we had a significant parkway and median improvement program list of projects. We had multiple projects that qualify under that category. This year we have only $125,000. One project, so we didn't put it as a separate category in this time. But yeah, we could have consolidated that into one item.
Okay, and then on page 3 of the staff report, under the category 3, parkways and medians, it identifies such things as curb and gutter installation, sidewalk repair. I would call all those things concrete, physical concrete items, Portland cement concrete items. On category 4, on the next page, it identifies parkway concrete repairs, which to me is redundant. It's the same thing. And I'm just wondering, shouldn't it just be identified in one place and not the other?
Yeah, as I mentioned, Vice Chair Zik, we could have gone away with this number 3 and just relied on the streets item to cover both items.
Okay, all right, that's all I've got. Thank you very much for your presentation.
All right. Commissioner Martinez, you have the floor.
Yes. I'll start by saying that since this is about general plan conformity, I'll be referring a lot to general plan policies, so there's going to be a lot of letters and numbers. But first, I want to continue on this theme of the categories, because in fact, in the 5-year CIP, there's another category that is not in the next fiscal year CIP, which is environment and sustainability. In last year's 5-year plan, the projects listed, all of the projects listed under an energy and sustainability got Plan 25-26, and now they're pushed out to 2029. So I wanted to ask why we don't have even one CIP project when we have conservation element goal number 2, conserve natural resources through environmental sustainability, and various other policies within that general plan goal.
So Commissioner Martinez, as you are aware, we started working on a climate action adaptation plan. As I mentioned, plans like that will, down the road, provide us a blueprint of how we should plan for the future, the projects and all such. And that's the reason why we did not program anything in the next couple of years, awaiting the results of that plan. Now, a lot of our projects, we do look at sustainability as one of our core values anyway. The recent project we did with LED lighting at our parks, the LED lighting at tennis center. I mean, all these are towards that goal. When we buy equipment like the chillers and the generators that we're buying, I mean, we look for more energy efficient equipment. The design of Fire Station 2 is going to be a LEED certified, preferably LEED Gold. That's what we are aiming for. So we do incorporate them as we go through in different projects, and the CAP will guide us on what project should be included and when we can include. And of course, our budget plays a big role on how much we can program into those projects.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yes, I agree that having a plan for these projects makes sense. I also think that having a separate sustainability bucket perhaps is not the best way to do it. I think everything should be viewed through the frame of sustainability, as you were mentioning, that all these different projects have sustainability aspects. So perhaps just energy would be the right one. Okay, I'll go down some general plan lists, and I just have questions. Land use element policy 2.2 mentions utility company funds for undergrounding. Did we use that already? And is that also what the Adams project is using?
Yes, that's what the Adams project will be using. So just to let you know, Edison has suspended that program.
Great.
So ours is pretty much the last project that will get funded with that funds. So once that's done, they don't have any more similar programs.
Okay, once that's done, that general plan policy will be closed out. Land use element policy 7.8 mentions development of pedestrian plazas. Would you agree that the Pedestrian Safety Festival is a great project to achieve that goal?
Definitely, yes.
Yes, okay. That one's not a project. So, circulation element policy 4.12 says to review capital improvement projects to ensure improvements on transit routes include modifications of street, curb, and sidewalks for efficient transit operations and passenger safety. Since we have Adams and Harbor, which are both transit routes, I want to confirm that they include the modifications for efficient transit operations and passenger safety.
Yes.
Great. Circulation element policy 4.13 mentions transit stop amenities. Do we have a project listed that will address transit stop amenities and bus stop shelters?
Yeah, we have an existing project for bus stop improvements with $300,000 in funding. That's already there. We are working on a new bus shelter franchise agreement. We are reviewing proposals right now, and that proposal includes significant improvements to transit shelters incorporated into the new franchise agreement. So we'll be coming to council when we make that selection.
Great. Circulation element policy 4.18 mentions bus rapid transit and working with OCTA. Has BRT been considered along Harbor Boulevard, especially since we're doing an RMRA project for it next year?
So that's something that OCTA works on. I know they did consider, but I think they did BRT on another corridor. Harbor was one of the corridors that was being considered, but I think they picked another one to implement that.
Okay. Let's see, I'll just note, circulation element policy 6.3 says to develop an annual list of active transportation projects for the capital improvement program. So I think that one is pretty much done. Thank you. Community design policy 1.1 says to implement Costa Mesa streetscape and median development guidelines. Just want to confirm that that will be done with projects.
Yeah, we're doing that with each project. So, like the Fairview project that's going to be underway, designed the medians on Fairview. The Adams project will look at what needs to be done with that particular project, the types of treatments that have to be made. So there are some guidelines that we are looking at, especially for the trees. So we're doing a tree canopy assessment that's going on right now. That should be completed in the next month or two. So there'll be some guidance on trees down the road.
Great. HCR, Historical and Community Resources, 1.6, says to encourage the development of an interpretive center at Fairview Park. I know Fairview Park has a few projects in the 5-year CIP. Which of them would an interpretive center fall into? Is it master plan, perhaps?
It'll be the master plan. Again, the master plan will guide those kind of projects too, so.
Okay. Open space and recreation number 1.3 says to pursue acquisition and development of parks in park deficient areas. Now, there is a CIP on the 5-year number 105, which is West Side Park Development, but it only lists funding in the future category. In prior years, it had funding in each of the years. So is it feasible to achieve West Side Park Development with it only listed in the future category?
So the West Side Park Development right now has $250,000 already in the current year budget. And as you know, our council has approved purchase of a parcel next to Shalimar. I mean, so if there are opportunities like that, I'm sure there will be, we'll be looking into our funds, and when there is surplus funding, I'm sure they'll be looking into projects like that to look into West Side Park Development. So not having a specific amount there doesn't mean we cannot still go ahead and procure those kind of properties. We did acquire bridge shelter, for example, without any such specific funding listed as a bridge shelter acquisition. I mean, so when there is a need, there will be ways to look for acquiring lands. But again, the opportunity has to come up too.
Yeah. Let me also relate this to the previous energy question. Since you're working on the CAP, projects will come from the CAP that are not yet included on this 5-year CIP. So I suppose my question is, what's the status of an open space master plan? And will that document then produce projects that will be listed on the 5-year CIP? So like this, for example, would West Side Park Development be considered as part of the ever elusive open space master plan.
Definitely. I think that's a document that is definitely overdue. At some point, we have to work on that particular project. So when that's done, it will guide a lot into that future of open space development.
Great. OSR, Open Space and Recreation number 1.10. I believe I mentioned this last year. Mentions community gardens. And they are not listed on the 5-year plan, and I wanted to ask about that.
So, we are definitely, if there is an opportunity to develop a community garden, we'll look into that. But at this point, without having a specific site or without having a direction from our Parks Commission, at this, we don't have it, doesn't mean we cannot bring it back next year, or if the council director says we can include it. We don't want to include a project just because we want to have it there. We want to have something behind it. So if it's a council direction or Parks Commission direction, we can definitely go back and add those kind of projects in. And I think that's what our Parks Commission is looking into it. They started working on a CIP development process right now, and these things will play a big role in figuring out how it should be developed down the road.
Yeah, I've seen their agenda items, and it does look really interesting. And I saw meeting before last, so they've really started to get into the weeds, and I do appreciate their work on this. And for community gardens, I think it's a shame former Commissioner Walsh, he was really the drum banger on community gardens. And again, on open space master plan, that'll hopefully be included, and then it can be addressed in that document. And with that, I'm done. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any more questions of staff? Commissioner Dixon.
Very quick question. So I see on the 5-year CIP, and I see in the description of the categories, we're talking about the regular maintenance of things like cross gutters and things like that. We've all been around the city, and we've seen areas where there's been an issue that's been there forever. So I would just, as part of the general plan conformity, there's a lot of different policies that are dealing with, the beautifications, the improvements, the levels of service. There's many different, that, as you've done a good job in the staff report. So if we don't see something in here that specifically calls for a specific area or whatever, because they're very granular on some of them, but they're more general in others. Mm-hmm. If I've asked, there's streets that I've seen that have been ground and slurry sealed, but still the concrete cross gutters that go through are just a disaster, and they have been for 12 years. So if you could just, I want to make sure that there's a plan in place before we certify that this is compliant, that those sort of maintenance issues are, because we used to have, I remember, a list that was that your division had that, mm-hmm. that said this street will be done in 2032. And we're still there, and that's in here, and if you could just point me to that really quickly.
So we have, there are categories that say citywide street improvements or citywide alley improvements and things like that. So we have a separate list in our offices, and some of them could actually be in our, we have to check if it's on the website, but it calls for improvements on different streets over the next few years. So we have a list like that. So, and whenever we visit that area for improving a particular street, we look at all the curb gutter, we look at the cross gutters, we look at everything that's in that area, and then make sure that they are addressed first before we do the paving of the street. So it goes along in that manner.
Okay.
But again, if there is a specific location that is an issue, we welcome that input, and then we make sure that we review and address it.
And I understand that there's various funding sources and priorities that the city council sets for different funding things. And so some of these things are almost entirely grant funded. So, but I am a little bit concerned about some of the issues with the streets as far as the maintenance and also sidewalks. I see a very low amount of money in here for sidewalk rehabilitation, and yet as we all know, there are some crazy sidewalks all over the city. So I do, from what you just mentioned, I do think it's a conformance, so those answer my questions, but I just wish we'd have a little more
Yeah.
cohesive plan for addressing some of these very immediate sort of broken window issues, like,
Yes.
and that are kind of low-hanging fruit. So,
Yeah, just want to point out on the sidewalks, this year we started a program where every year 20% of our city sidewalks are checked. So they go through and document every single condition on the sidewalk, 20% of the city. So in 5 years, 100% of the city is covered. So this year they're reviewing the first 20%. Immediately behind that, we'll be going and fixing the problem sidewalks. So we are following that, and we want to make sure that our sidewalks are improved over the next 5 years. So we have a plan in place for that one.
and then for existing improvements like the Joanne Street Bike Trail, where the lights have been reported as not working, that's not a CIP thing, that's a normal maintenance thing, or is that within the CIP element?
So if it was one light that's gone, it's a maintenance thing, and we did that. For example, Vista Park or a few other parks where similar, theft happened with copper theft, we replaced those lights. Canyon Park, we just installed solar lights there because, we replaced copper 3 times and then got stolen 3 times, and now we have solar lights. But on Joanne Bike Trail, that's a significant loss. It's, if you replace all of them, you're talking about $800,000. So on the south side of the golf course, we worked with Edison to add dual light standards. So if you go on Joanne now at night, it's lit actually with Edison lighting now, and it looks pretty good. I mean, it's all lit, even though the bollard lighting is not working. It's lit with Edison lights. On the harbor side, the Edison lights are on the median of harbor, and they don't reach the trail. So we have an issue there which we are trying to fix, but that's a $400,000 fix. So it's a CIP that we did, think about, but unfortunately it cannot be funded this year. So we'll look for funding in the next year.
Okay, and just the overarching goal of the general plan is a livable city right? And so
Yes.
I want to make sure that we're not getting the cart before the horse here and putting in grant-funded major improvements that are not going to be maintained. Because,
Got it. No.
my son wants to ride his bike all the time, everywhere. He's scared to go on Joanne Street Bike Trail. He's 12 years old. So I think we need to make sure that we take
Yes.
care of what we have before we,
Yeah.
we learn to fly before we jump out of the plane. So that's not a good move. But anyway, thank you very much. That was a terrible.
Okay. We'll excuse you for that metaphor, Commissioner Dixon. All right. If there are no more questions of staff, Commissioner Andrade?
Yeah, just really quickly for, greater clarity in the health of a conversation. How are you guys, all these projects necessary, very important. How are you guys doing with staffing? Do you have the full staffing and capacity to be able to achieve all these meaningful goals?
Yeah, so we have good staffing, and we also rely on some consultant help to get us through these projects. So that's why sometimes it's taking a little longer. I mean, the $15 million grant that we received from our state senator and Assemblywoman Cardi Peter-Norris, as well as Supervisor Foley, that was a $15 million infusion that we didn't expect, and that kind of delayed some of the projects, but we are catching up. This CIP, while it's not as big, it's going to help us in helping us catching up with the CIP to a certain extent.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to, again, applaud the great work and the great planning that is happening. I will say I absolutely appreciate all the work that is happening around focusing on pedestrian safety the festival, the lighting in the parkways is absolutely important. I mean, I would love to go biking with my little one, but I'm absolutely terrified, to be quite honest. Knowing and seeing improvements across the city that is making it safer for families or just individuals in period, in general, would be great. I really do appreciate the attention to the hawk signal on Center Street. That has been way too many warnings already and tragedies, I would say, in that area. So really appreciate that. And then I'll also echo and just reinforce the comments by Commissioner Martinez regarding investment and efforts on developing areas on the west side. Right, we know that it's a heavily populated area. We're still under the ratio of what we should have for green space. So again, appreciate any efforts and opportunities to being creative, finding those pocket park opportunities, any empty lots that are available, just to again make the west side green a little bit and more inviting for our local community. So appreciate that.
Right. If there are no more questions of staff, I'm going to open the public hearing and invite public comments. Finally. If you'd like to speak, please come down to a podium. And if you're on Zoom, use the raise hand option. If you're joining the meeting by phone and like to speak, please press *9. I will start on my left with Mr. Taboda. You have the floor.
Excuse me. Thank you, Commissioner, Chair Harlan and Commissioners. I appreciate the comments by Commissioner Martinez. I'm speaking on the West Side Park Development Project. I also brought the general plan, open space and recreation element, and what he mentioned about the priorities of pursuing and acquiring land for park on the west side. What you're probably not aware of is for the last 3 years in the 5-year CIP, money had been forecasted for developing the park. Not the full amount, but a little bit each year. And now the current 5-year CIP shows $0 for at least 5 years and $12 million in future years, to Commissioner Zick or Vice Chair Zick's comments. Instead of spreading it out, now it's all in one bucket, future. So also the Parks Commission, PAX Commission, at their review commission meeting 2 months ago, when the CIP was presented to them, they brought up the West Side Park Development Project also, and the commission voted to recommend that $250K be set aside or budgeted each year for the next 5 years for West Side Park Development. So I think you should be aware of that. You might want to replicate that recommendation to the council. That doesn't necessarily have to be out of the general fund. That could be out of the Park Development Fund. However, but I think it's important that this being in the general plan, this goal and objective that, and being deferred for the last 3 years, I think it's time for the city to step up a little bit more than it has on West Side Park Development. And I urge you to reinforce the recommendation from the Parks Commission. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. You have the floor. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Larry Quarter. I haven't been here for a while, but I used to spend a lot of time in this room. I wrote most of the proposition for Fairview Park to have it saved from any development. And that was quite a challenge, but it got passed, as you know, it got passed by a majority of people. I was on the steering committee after that, which a lot of times was like herding balloons. It just was not a very fun thing to do. I live in Mesa Verde right on Swan Drive, so I have this beautiful look from my second floor out to Fairview Park. Unfortunately, I saw the burning that happened several years ago and called the fire department, probably one of the first ones. And my family is very beneficial to be able to see that and be that Fairview Park access. But I'm curious, I spent a lot of time on the committee after that with the city's Fairview Park program. But anything we wanted to get done seemed to be there wasn't any money for it. Not a lot happened. But just things like trail markings and making a difference on how the park is utilized. My goal too is even to get rid of the word park, because it is not a park, it's a preserve. And I was met with all sorts of animosity about that, but it is not a park. But can this commission help directing funds, like I've been watching up here on the screen a few minutes ago, to get some of the things that our committees that I was on before wanted to have happen in Fairview Park, such as better trail markings, control over nighttime use? Who do I talk to here, perhaps, that might help guide some solutions there? Or do I just write all to you and ask the questions, what can we do to fix this? And my website is fairviewparkadvocates.com. I love the place, and I will, I guess, send messages to the committee here, commission, to ask for maybe some money to be set aside by somebody at some point to help Fairview Park be under better control. Even things like trail markings, just guiding things there. The stairs, maintaining those. The fact that the people who spent millions of dollars to put in the pumps for the ponds, they missed and did not put in one of the two pumps. And that whole thing is a fiasco the way it operates.
All right, thank you. Hold on a second. Anna, do we have anybody on Zoom or
No, we do not, Mr. Chairman.
or phone either?
No, we do not.
Okay. Before I close the public hearing, just a quick response to that last commenter. We have a very narrow charge tonight. This item is simply about whether the CIP is in conformance with our general plan. Generally speaking, though, the funding decisions lie with the city council. We don't generally have that opportunity to direct where funding goes or where it comes from. So I don't want you to spin your wheels, but that's the appropriate body to send your concerns to. Sorry? Yes, I should remind you, tomorrow night is a budget meeting for this year's budget. So if you want to come back here, I believe it starts at 5. It's a study session. So you'll have an opportunity to speak on that as well. And here. Thank you, Rasha. All right, commissioners, any final questions of staff? Commissioner Martinez?
Yeah, I realize I don't actually know where this resolution is going. So could you explain the process? Where, like, is this a recommendation to the city council? Is this just a resolution that we adopt and that's it? That's the only thing we're doing? What is the next step after this?
So the resolution is essentially a planning commission determination that there has been general plan conformance determined. It's required by the state to meet the government code. And although the council will be aware or notified that the resolution was or was not adopted, it's not a recommendation to the council per se, as much as just a sort of as a decision that there's general plan conformance with the CIP.
So will the city council be notified of this resolution's adoption and our action taken tonight?
Correct.
How will that notification be sent?
With the budget review.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Dixon?
I didn't have questions for staff. I was going to.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion?
Sure.
Okay.
I move that the planning commission, have to hit that? I haven't made the motion yet. So I move that the planning commission finds that based on the findings presented and that the proposed 1-year fiscal year 2025, 2026, and the 5-year fiscal year 2025, 2026 to fiscal year 2029, 30 capital improvement programs are in conformance with the city's 2015 to 2035 general plan. And that the making a general plan conformance finding for adoption of a CIP is an activity related to fiscal planning and budgeting is not a project per CEQA guidelines section 1538.
Okay, do we have a second? I'll make the second. Do you want to speak to your motion?
Yes, I really appreciate both yours and staff's reiteration that our scope is very narrow. Every single person here has very strong opinions about almost all of these things and the priorities represented here. We have some folks in the audience who've spent a tremendous amount of time and passion trying to implement, guide things, envision the city with Fairview Park, with finance things. And it's a good reminder that it's extraordinarily important to get involved, talk to your city council members, talk to your neighbors, because essentially the only way to make those appeals is to the decision makers on the city council as to what they're going to prioritize. I really appreciate the focus on the West Side Park. If that had not been in there, if that $12 million hadn't been sitting out of the end, I couldn't vote to find this in conformance. So I'm disappointed that it's pushed out so far. We feel like, the West Side's been screaming and yelling forever about we need more parks, we need more attention, we need more everything. So you have to reach out to your city council members and understand that every single person has a different opinion about how Fairview Park should be used or what's more important. Is it more important to have active transportation things? Is it more important to increase the level of service? Is it more important to increase aesthetic issues? All of those are ultimately up with the council. So I do appreciate that reminder of our scope, and I do believe that this does conform with the general plan. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Vice Chair Zick?
Thank you. I think I'll support the motion, of course. I think the comments by Commissioner Martinez and by Mr. Taboda illuminate an interesting perspective about this decision that we are making tonight about conformity. And it's a little of the question of the cart or the horse. Are we looking at the projects that you're proposing and trying to determine if they slot into the general plan in some way, and if they do, that's conformity. But what Mr. Taboda and Mr. Martinez have highlighted with a couple of examples is an opposite perspective, which is to say, if the general plan says we should have a community garden, then by golly, how come you're not building one? Which I'm not sure is the perspective that we necessarily are trying to bring to this particular decision, but it's an important perspective, because what point is the general plan and the spending of capital dollars if they don't actually coordinate? And to that, I would suggest that these projects that are in the capital plan actually carry the general plan coding. And when Commissioner Martinez cited land use element 2.2, for example, and he said, so is such and such a project, is that what that is? The answer is yes. Well, maybe that project ought to say LU 2.2 next to it. And that's why we're doing that project, because it does conform with the general plan. So I think there'd be a way to make this look like it's a little more coordinated. Anyway, that's my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Martinez?
Yes, I'll make roughly the same comments I made last year at my first commission meeting, which is that what we're doing here tonight is finding this CIP in conformance with the general plan. And I think some people may view general plan conformity as a binary do or do not. It does or it does not. But I ask these questions of staff in order to see if we can make the CIP more compliant with the general plan. And I did highlight numerous examples of it perfectly aligning with the general plan. I think my favorite is land use element 7.8, which mentions pedestrian plazas. And I think Vice Chair Zick's suggestion is a good one, that we highlight what projects fit where for general plan categorization. So I just wanted to point that out and say that while I do think that this CIP is conforming with the general plan, I think it could be more conforming by, for example, including more funding in this fiscal and fiscal years after for West Side Park development, because I feel like that's a big priority for the council and it's a policy in our general plan. So it could be more, but it's compliant already, so I will vote in favor of the motion.
All right. Thank you. Okay, let's call for the question.
That motion carries 6-0.
All right, thank you. That takes us to departmental reports. Mr. Yang, Public Services Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No reports from Public Works. Thank you. Defer back to the chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Drapkin, anything from Development Services?
Tonight, I do have a report. It's more of a personal report than any, as a department report. It's something I had to mention. It's a bittersweet for me to mention that I've accepted a job with the city of Encinitas as their director. This will be my last planning commission meeting with you guys. I've had such a great journey in Costa Mesa for the last 4 years, and all the projects that I've worked on have been, honestly amazing. I wrote down a few of them just to remind me, like, the Fairview Development Center and the city's inclusionary housing ordinance, housing element, One Metro West, outdoor dining. All of this is going on in 4 years, which is crazy. Most people in my position don't get this type of activity in a lifetime. Accessory dwelling unit ordinance. We finally got Jamboree housing across the finish line. The rezoning efforts are really working their way. I've had a really big role in getting that thing started. Even the cannabis program, it's been a journey. So, so many other Costa Mesa projects I've been involved with and I'm going to terribly miss. As I said, I've had a great experience working in Costa Mesa and especially with this planning commission, and getting to know this commission that works at such a high performance level has been really a great experience for me. I am leaving this department with excellent staff. They've honed their skills, and they really, truly try to do the best for this community. They've gotten so much better, and they were great to begin with. But as I've seen them over the last 4 years, we've got this department is just amazing. It's a real hard leave for me, Yeah. I didn't think I'd break down, but I guess so. I guess it means more to me than I thought it did. I know Carrie is a great leader here. I'm leaving you with her, and I've gotten to know her the last few months, and she's pretty great. So,
all right. Well,
Love you, Scott.
Scott, on behalf of the commission, let me extend our great appreciation and thanks for all the work that you've done. I wasn't expecting to say anything about this, but you and I have worked together for a long time, long before Costa Mesa, and I was very pleased that you came here. You've been certainly, not only in addition to staff, but you've done a lot for our community, and I'm sorry to see you go. I'm a little shocked, quite frankly, but thrilled for you as well. It's an awesome opportunity, and I don't want to make you cry anymore. So, Tarquin, City Attorney report, top that.
Yeah, I don't know if I can. On behalf of myself and City Attorney Barlow, as well as all the other attorneys in my office, Scott, we really want to thank you for your service to the city. We've all enjoyed working with you a great deal. I wish you all the best in your future role in the city of Encinitas. But other than that, I have no report.
Okay, well, Scott, since you told us it was your last, I'll give the commissioners opportunities to say kind words, and then Ms. Ty as well. So, Chair Dixon, Vice Chair.
Just briefly, you couldn't stay away from the Coastal Commission, huh? You miss all those staff members and all their rational, reasonable efforts at regulating the coastal zone. All right.
Yeah,
I thought you escaped Laguna.
I escaped Laguna. It was 24 years I was there, and I wasn't looking to find another job. They came to me, and one of the things that I looked at was going back to the Coastal Commission. But I don't know what you call it. There's probably some phrase coined for it, but I miss their beating me up, I guess. I don't know.
Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, I've over the 4 years, it's one thing I actually have missed, which is insane, because when I came here, I was really excited not to have to deal with the Coastal Commission too much. I didn't burn any bridges at the Coastal Commission, which I thought I might do before I left, and now I'm glad I didn't.
It's important never to do that.
And never burn bridges.
They will always show up. I just want to, very personally, after I was off the Planning Commission previously, I work for a law firm that does a lot of land use stuff. We did a lot of work in Laguna Beach, and I really appreciated the professionalism of Laguna Beach staff. And when I learned that you came here from that project we were working on together over in the North Costa Mesa, you're always a little bit hoping to get a good treatment and hoping to get a professional treatment and a very even-handed approach to something. There was some confusion about old documents and stuff like that on one case, and then on another one, there was a new project, and I just wanted to say it was a distinct pleasure working with you on a professional from a developer perspective. And so I was looking forward to working with you on the Planning Commission, and now you're running away back to the arms of the Coastal Commission.
Yeah.
So, but thank you very much. I really appreciated all the professionalism and the work you've done, and so thank you. Good luck. And congratulations. That's great to be you're going to have challenges.
All right. Anybody want to heap more praise on Scott now?
No,
Okay.
I will share, Scott. You were here when I onboarded the commission, and you were absolutely fabulous in hand-holding me through the process, learning the rules of engagement of this space. So I really appreciate all your guidance and support, your availability when I have 50,000 questions about an application. So I really appreciate your support and guidance through all that, and all the great legacy work. Running through some of that list, we were with you here through that. So that was, again, quite commendable, and you leave quite a legacy, clearly, with the city. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Kalipak?
I'll echo that. I am so sorry to hear that you're leaving us. I've just loved working with you. Your dedication, and yeah, you always pick up when I call over the weekend. And you're just fun to work with. So you will be very dearly missed. And thank you for everything.
All right, Commissioner Martinez?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much from the year I've been here. It has been a pleasure working with you. I want to thank you so much for you onboarding me and for being here right next to you this entire time. I've loved it. I've loved this opportunity, your sense of humor, you answering all of my emails with all of my questions. I just want to thank you so much and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. All right, Vice Chair Zick?
Well, Scott, I had the unique pleasure of being the only planning commissioner here when Jennifer Lee brought you to the city. And I'm sorry to see you go, but in that entire time, I can't think of a more professional, thorough, easy to work with individual than you. And your entire staff, I'm sure, are going to be very disappointed to see you go because your personal qualities are really admirable. I enjoyed working with you.
All right. Carrie, you have the last word.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Chair. And on behalf of the Department of Economic and Development Services, as well as the city staff, I wanted to thank Assistant Director Scott Jarkin for his contribution to the whole city. Scott joined the city in time to work on like the hardest set of assignments in a compressed amount of time like ever known. So good job on your timing. And Scott also has the honor of being one of the very few planning professionals that were specifically pointed out by California HCD, Housing and Community Development, in their housing element letter as being a champion and just really, really taking the housing element over the finish line in terms of its substantial compliance with state law, right? I mean, we still have to finish the rezoning to get certification, but Scott and previous director Jennifer Lee's efforts was those efforts were what got the city's housing element to where it was, and I have never seen anybody else's name mentioned in a letter, and so that's a testament to Scott's ability not only to charm the Coastal Commission staff, but also HCD. So that's our loss, of course. I also want to mention internally, Scott was instrumental in providing the leadership to the department during the better part of 2023 when the city was undergoing the recruitment for the director position. He was also at that time instrumental in rebuilding the planning division as new staff came on board, as the restructuring for the new manager positions for the planning division came on board, and all the while continuing to serve as the planning commission liaison. And that we kept all the agendas full, kept the projects moving, kept the questions answered. And so, Scott, you know, I don't know where you found the time to do all that, but internally it was really, really amazing watching Scott juggle everything like an octopus. I will say Scott's got some superpowers. He's got superpowers with resolving neighbor conflicts, land use conflicts. And so he was always able to get in there, come up with creative solutions, out-of-the-box ideas to find common ground among different people so that everybody could continue to get along. He forged relationships throughout the city, and he's a solution-oriented representative of our department and a role model for our staff. Scott's cheerful, can-do, and caring attitude with his thorough technical knowledge of land use planning and environmental review created a collegial and fun environment for our staff. And, you know, it's shown in their daily huddles where they're problem solving and getting projects moving. And so staff will really, really miss the accessibility and technical knowledge that you provided, Scott. And then on you know, my personal level, since I joined the city about 6 months ago, Scott has been my steadfast partner every day in administering the operations of the department. I am so thankful for his time with me, with us, and we really wish him well on his new adventure down in Encinitas. We will always consider him a friend, and we'll welcome him back at any time to see the results of his hard work. So, Scott, on behalf of the department and the city, thank you so very, very much, and we wish you the best of luck, and please stay a friend. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, Scott, I'm sorry it wasn't a longer meeting for you to endure. You got off easy. I know. Well, bittersweetly, I will adjourn the meeting.